So I've known my friend and our past president, John O'Neill, for a long time, maybe too long. What a great servant leader of our club. I remember when I joined all those years ago, how you reached out and made me feel welcome and told me how I could get more involved. You said, the more you put into Rotary, the more you get out of it. And that's been really, really great advice. An example you set for everybody else is, in my humble opinion, the standard of Rotarian membership. John cares so deeply and has done so much for our club. He has showed leadership in many areas that have impacted our community. But this topic is probably the most visible thing that you have done over the years. Sam Petway raced up to me and said, you know, I recruited John O'Neill in 2002 for the foundation work. That's a lot of time that you've put in. No one is better qualified to introduce our panel and moderate today's discussion. But before I invite John up to the stage to do so, let me not forget to remind you of his successful career in commercial real estate along the way. John was the managing partner at Cushman Wakefield for 20 years, right? I think serving in a variety of different roles, managing principal of the Atlanta office, president of the Central region, that is the Midwest, the Sun Belt markets, and president of U.S. multifamily capital markets. He was recently appointed as the president and managing partner at Partners Real Estate, opening the Atlanta-based office last June with a fast-growing presence in our community. It seems like every day I read the Business Chronicle, there's somebody else following you to your new venture, which I think speaks to your leadership. So please join me in welcoming John O'Neill to the stage.
Thank you, President Adrian, and totally not necessary, but thank you. Well, I'm delighted to moderate today's discussion on this fascinating new public safety training center. Just by a show of hands, who has had the opportunity to tour the facility? So, well, we've got a good crowd there. Excellent, thank you. Well, it's been years in the making, literally going back to the early 2000s. It's required a significant public-private partnership, just a massive team effort. And I would argue it's been probably the most transformational public safety project in Atlanta's history. And we're honored today to have Chief Shearbaum of Atlanta Police Department, Chief Smith of Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department, and Atlanta Police Foundation CEO Dave Wilkinson. These three have just been so instrumental in making this community anchor a reality. And all three have dedicated their entire career in public safety. So please join me in welcoming Chief Shearbaum, Chief Smith, and Dave Wilkinson to the stage. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And I don't know if you could see the show of hands out there earlier, the amount of people that's actually toured this amazing facility. It's quite impressive. The official grand opening is next month, April 29th. And I thought it might be an appropriate starting point to ask our three distinguished guests what they're most excited about relative to this grand opening. So let's start with Chief Shearbaum.
Yes, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back at the Rotary. I want to thank you for what you do for our city and keeping cities safe. You are actually the best crime fighters, John, is you. So if you're investing in youth initiatives, education, economic opportunity, or a stable home life, you're reducing crime. So one of these days, I want you to put me out of business. We want to go work for Chief Smith. I say that everywhere I go, and I mean that. John, I do want to introduce my team because we are served by a great group of men and women in the Atlanta Police Department, and I have a few of them with me today. We have our Chief Administrative Officer, Marshall Freeman, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Orr, Chief of Field Operations, Jason Smith, Chief Bruce, who will oversee the training center, and then two officers in the back that work very hard keeping our city safe, Sergeant Reese and Officer DeMasso. And there's one other APDer in the room that if I did not acknowledge him, I'd be remiss because I wouldn't be sitting here today if not for him, because mentoring matters. And our 23rd Chief of Police, George Turner, is here, who invested in me, gave me my chance in supervision of the executive team, and I would not be sitting on the stage without you, Chief Turner. So thank you very much. What I'm excited about is that finally we have a training campus that meets the brand of the Atlanta Police Department. We see that beautiful skyline right now, or was on the screen, beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. We've invited people to that skyline to serve the city, then they walk in and they saw what our training centers really looked like. And it was a point of disappointment for them. And so now when we recruit you to protect Atlanta, Georgia, you're going to see a training campus that reflects our values. We have to be very good at what we do whenever you call us, whatever that is, and we have to be trusted. We have to be trusted by you when you call us, and you have to trust us when we leave. And now we're going to have the ability to invest in that at the highest level, and we will be able to grow our police department at a faster rate and keep the talent that we have. Think about Atlanta United or the Falcons or the Hawks. They always have to be recruiting talent, they have to be equipping talent, and they have to be retaining talent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, your police department is no different. And if we want to be in the most competitive space possible, that we're recruiting talent, we're equipping it to the most dangerous and chaotic situations, and also keeping you so you don't go work for Sandy Springs or Roswell or DeKalb County, and no offense if you live there, but you have your own police department, go find your own folks. We have to be in that space, and the training center is going to deliver on all three of those, and that's what I'm most excited about.
I love it. I love it. Chief Smith?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. I've got a couple of firefighters here. I've got my Chief of Staff, Raimondo Hampton. I want to recognize him, as well as Antavius Green, who's making sure that I get everywhere I need to go without having a wreck, because Lord knows I don't need to be behind the wheel. But I just want to say thank you individually to each of you for your support of not just Atlanta Fire Rescue, but public safety for the city of Atlanta. The mayor made public safety a priority. Dave and the team took that mantle and they pushed it forward. And here we are today to talk about what is exciting and what's going on and what's going to revolutionize public safety for the city of Atlanta. What I am most excited about is the possibility of being able to grow some hair. And so let me break that down for you. How many of you had to teach a child or a sibling or a brother how to drive? Okay. I've got firefighters on the streets of Atlanta trying to learn how to drive fire trucks. And so I'm always waiting for that text, that phone call, that something has gone awry. So I am very excited about not the 2000s, but going back to the 90s. And Chief, we always laugh about the lack of having a public safety training center and a place to train our members to operate the equipment, more importantly, to work together. I know you guys see that the lines of public safety are blurred now. Every time you see a fire truck, you're going to see a police car, and most likely vice versa. And so it allows us to get down to that organic level of learning to recognize and appreciate each other and respond collaboratively to the city of Atlanta. So if I had to pick one thing, I am glad that we now have somewhere that we can call home and that we can train together.
Excellent. Dave?
Well, thank you, Chief. Well, I would say I'm the most excited, and proud is probably the better word, that we were able to accomplish this incredible feat for our city. John said earlier, it's probably the most transformational thing that's ever happened for public safety in our city's history. I would save maybe hiring the first black officers in 1948. Other than that, this is the most transformational thing that's ever taken place in our city. Often, if you're around me a lot, you hear me call it a game changer, right? But I'm just proud. I'm proud of the philanthropic partners we have in our room, that have here in this room, the business leaders in this room, all of the folks that came together to make this a reality under tough circumstances. One of the things I often say, my staff's probably getting tired of me saying it, but I always say, history has shown that great things are always hard, but hard things always take what? Great leadership, right? And that's what this city needed, was that great leadership. And that's what you got from these gentlemen right here on the stage with me, as well as all the board members and all the staff of the Atlanta Police Foundation. And before I give up the mic here quickly, if I could get all the board members of the Police Foundation and the staff of the Police Foundation to all stand up and let us show our appreciation for all you've done.
All right, so there was a lot of hands that went up that have seen this center. But what we're going to do now, Marshall was kind enough to operate the drone on Friday afternoon. Probably didn't operate it, but he did get the drone footage. And so Chief Shearbaum and Chief Smith are going to walk you through this so you can understand quite the scale of this project.
All right, well, look to your screen. We're now starting at the driveway, and I'm going to explain the science of public safety side of the campus to you, and Chief Smith is going to explain the art side. It's important to note this driveway was not initially planned, but it was the community that asked us to move the driveway so we would not have so much congestion in their immediate neighborhoods, and we were able to develop that. What you're seeing now is the two main buildings on the science side. You're seeing the leadership building here, which will have our wellness center to address and promote wellness and mental health among firefighters and police officers, advanced areas for career development, our areas for pinning ceremonies, graduation ceremonies, and also the backup joint operations center for the city of Atlanta. And if you're saying this looks like a college campus, you're not wrong. This is what we wanted as a campus for adult learning. And now you're seeing the academic building, 2 stories dedicated to fire and police training, classrooms, computer labs, a defensive tactics room to limit the times we have to use our firearm, a workout space, an ambulance for learning how to start an IV and a moving ambulance is in there, a mock courtroom, and many other spaces for us to develop the core basis or the science of our professions before we go on to the other side campus. But there's 2 precincts already working there, ladies and gentlemen. They moved in 2 weeks ago. One of them is our K-9 precinct, which Chief Smith is going to show in a minute, but then is the mounted patrol, which we're coming up on now. Here's a gymnasium. We're going to make sure we keep in shape, stay in shape, and also do the Mayor's Midnight Basketballs initiatives here also. No, you're not in Kentucky, so don't look for a whiskey or a bourbon stand anywhere close. This is actually your Mounted Patrol's new stables. For all of our horses that patrol the parks throughout the city, help us in crowd control matters. Also look for Alzheimer's patients, missing children that we may deploy them on. 12 horses there now. We can hold up to 19 horses at the location, and we look forward to continue to grow this as we get ready for the World Cup. Other departments will actually house their horses here when they come to assist us next year when Atlanta welcomes the world back to our city. This was the first day the horses saw their new home. They had breakfast in Home Park and they had dinner on Key Road. And this is what your police department's going to look like next week, by the way. We will not film that, but that's the horses. Chief Smith.
Next, when we get to the art side, what you will see is a state-of-the-art training fire station. It's the first of its kind in Atlanta. It's a 2-base station where we actually have a dirty classroom where the members can train at the tower that is behind it, and they can actually come into the classroom and then they can get application. You will see a 7-story tower that we have that allows interior structure firefighting training as well as tactical rescue training from the rooftop, as well as elevator training inside. Next, you will see the K-9 facility. APD's K-9 facility is the first of its kind in Atlanta. Prior to now, the handlers had to take the dogs home. And so now they have a facility or a precinct for them to operate out of. The dogs are utilized for locating drugs and people if they need to find those people. Overhead here, you will see the EVOC course. This is very vital and necessary to APD as well as fire, where the police officers will learn to drive the vehicles at high rates of speed. You see in the middle there, you will see a skid pad. That skid pad teaches the drivers how to operate on a wet surface. And next you will see the large driving pad. The driving pad is where we can set the driving courses up 2 to 3 times and operate the fire vehicles and city operating vehicles. Next, you will see what we refer to as Mock City. You will see a 2-story home as well as a commercial facility, motel, gas station. It teaches us to operate tactically, allows us to operate together in unison, providing public safety to the city of Atlanta. And that is an overview of what we have going with the new Public Safety Training Center. And if you had not had the opportunity to see it up close, it is a treat. We invite you to come out on the 29th for opening day.
Terrific. Thank you, Chief Smith. And a quick tip of the hat to Holly Hughes, one of our members, who her partner Kelly, they're at CFS and they are doing the facility management for the project, doing a wonderful job with it. So you get an appreciation for the scale, the significance, the green space, et cetera. Let's talk about the impact, Chief Shearbaum, to the future of Atlanta relative to this. And you touched on this in your opening comments, but this slide, I think, tells a story about kind of the impact. Talk a little bit about The training center and the future of Atlanta.
The training center is necessary for us, and I said it earlier, we have to grow the police department, we have to bring talent on board, we have to equip it, and then we have to keep it. And this allows us to be present in all 245 neighborhoods. It allows us to get quickly to calls, to be prepared to host the World Cup that's coming, but all other sporting events that are here. We have great educational institutions in the city, such as GSU, Georgia Tech, the AU Center. We collaborate very closely with those chiefs of police. Mr. President, good to see you here. He didn't pay me to give a shout out to the Panthers, but I did anyway. So we need people, right? We have great technology. Yes, we have nice new cars and a beautiful training center, but at the end of the day, we succeed because of the men and women that say yes to their job. And I'll give you just a couple examples. It was just a few months ago, we had an active shooter in Midtown at the Four Seasons. Four Seasons. Who would have thought on Four Seasons we would have someone on the 32nd floor with a high-powered rifle that was firing into the neighborhoods? And many of you got the text alert to stay away from a certain side of your building, not to approach the area. And it was the men and women of your police department that had to go into that building to stop that attack. And can you imagine if we didn't have anyone to go to the call, John? Or we had someone that we didn't detect was afraid too soon, or couldn't stand in danger for their community we needed to. But I was very proud from the command post to watch your police department go into that hallway. And once the perpetrator knew we were in the hallway, he was firing through the walls, he was firing through the door, and they were pinned down. And we actually had to use a sniper on another building to actually injure him to stop that attack. But it wasn't just the police department. We were posed there with firefighters wearing Kevlar vests and helmets, ready to go in to rescue as many people as we needed to that may have been injured. That's what we have to be ready for on any given day, on any hour in this city. What is the vast majority of our calls? It's car accidents. It's someone that may have had something stolen, but it's also babies not breathing, missing Alzheimer's citizens of our city. That is what you expect of your police department. And so to have a training center of this caliber, we will always be there when you need us to do the most critical job that we may be called upon to do. I would like to tell you it's the uniform that makes us brave or courageous or ready to stand in danger for you, but it's not. It's training. And it takes 5,000 applicants to get 100 candidates into our training center. And of that, only 70% will pass. 30% are going to wash out. So that 5,000, we're looking, what's on your social media? What type of groups have you affiliated with? What kind of tattoo do you have? What do your neighbors say about you? 5,000 people, we narrow that down to 100 because we are quality over quantity. And then that 100, only 70 are going to enter onto the street to serve you. And training is how we thin you down and prepare you for the job.
So Chief, can you share with the audience the impact on the pipeline relative to the academy? I mean, the amount of interest now to be part of APD is driven dramatically up.
It's growing. We started about a year and a half ago, Marshall can correct me if I'm wrong, promoting the training center in our recruitment. And Chief Turner, listen to this. You can buy me coffee later for this. We crossed back into the 1,700 mark of officers January. We're now at 1,734. The last time we had over 1,700 officers on the police department was 2021. Was the last time. We were down 200 officers already. We lost 200 officers in a month and in a year and a half. And so people are looking at what we're doing to invest in them, and they're choosing Atlanta. We've had 2 DeKalb County police officers join us because they were driving around the perimeter, and they said, we want to work for a department that's willing to invest in that for the police department. And then while we're growing the organization, we have over 100 recruits just waiting to start training. Our attrition has dropped by over 20%. Our resignations are dropping, and our early retirements are dropping. So we're seeing the officers vote with their feet by saying, I'm going to go to Atlanta or I'm going to stay in Atlanta because there's an investment that's being made in me to go home safely at the end of the night and be good at what I do.
I love it. So that's at a local level. Dave, talk about from a national perspective.
Well, what I'm the most excited about with this training center is the original vision of the training center was to build a training center that was open to the public, that was community-centric. You can imagine there's about 300 training centers in this country being built right now. Most of them, if not every single one of them, they've put a fence around it, police only inside, that's it. This training center was built with the community in mind from the beginning. I'll give an example. The 8 neighborhoods that lived around the training center formed an advisory committee that began to advise us on the training center. And they've been there every step of the way, because keep in mind, This property was a 381-acre piece of property that had been fenced off, sequestered from the public since the early 90s. It became a trash dump. We took over 200,000 tires off the property. That's where they dumped the Equitable building. That's where they dumped the Carnegie Library. So it became nothing but a dump sequestered from the public. So imagine being able to take this training center and take this 381 acres, take this piece of land, I should say, build an 85-acre training center with another 290 some odd acres of permanently deeded green space for the community. Building a training center that's not only open to the public, that includes some upwards of 30 acres of walking trails, fishing ponds, community space within the training center, community meeting rooms, all dedicated to the community. So one of the examples I would give you is that the stakeholder committee made 12 material recommendations for change. One of them was the chief mentioned, moving the road to the other side. We adhered to all 12 of those recommendations at a total cost of $10.7 million. And we spent that $10.7 million so we could give the community exactly what they asked for. I'll give a quick anecdotal example. We also said we were going to save every specimen tree on the site. We did a complete survey of the site, and there were only 6 specimen trees. So the plan was to save all 6 of those and plant 500 plus hardwood trees, and we did all of that. But I get a call one day and said, well, the community wanted a sidewalk around the site. It was $1.2 million. We'd already approved the sidewalk for the community. And I get a call one day and says, the sidewalk's going to go right through the tree roots of one of the big trees, so we're going to have to cut the tree down. Is that okay? And I said, no, let's look for an alternative. We don't want to cut the tree down. He calls back and says 2 things. We're going to have to go a very circuitous route around the tree to save the tree. Cost about $60,000. And we got to go back for a whole nother permit. And I said, well, just do it. So we didn't bat an eye. We spent the extra $60,000, spent the extra time, because we wanted to adhere to what we'd committed to the community from the very beginning. So as a takeaway for you all, as you leave here today, this training center not only is a game changer in the way of morale, retention, recruitment, hiring, training, police and fire training together for the first time since the early 90s, all of that, that's incredibly important. But also know as you leave here today, it is a one of a kind. It's a training center that every city in this country will begin to try to emulate. And I argue is the story. That's the big story of this training center, is how we're able to build this incredible facility in spite of all the nonsense that we had to deal with, and at the same time do it all with the community in mind, and the community is ecstatic about it.
That's a proud Atlanta moment. Thank you, Dave. Chief Smith, so the center naturally is not just for police. So how does joint training with fire and EMS improve response in real-world emergencies?
I think what's very evident is that the police department and the fire department in Atlanta, we actually like each other, unlike some other jurisdictions. And we spend a lot of time around each other, but more importantly, we realize that if we don't learn to work together in a harmonious way on the streets, then the citizens are the ones who suffer. And so what we've taken to vow is that we are going to make sure that the next generation of first responders understand what that relationship has to be in order to support the citizens of Atlanta. So operating on the same campus, working out together, training together, ultimately will change the environment for responses in the future. We do a great job at it right now, but it's going to be through the roof in the next 10 to 20 years, I believe.
All right, that's great. Chief Shearbaum, public safety ultimately, comes down to results. So what measurable impact are you seeing in crime in Atlanta? We saw some stats on the slide here. And how does the Public Safety Training Center play a role in driving those outcomes?
We've been very fortunate. When Mayor Dickens came to office, he did make public safety the cornerstone of his administration, not only for the police department and the fire department. He was activating all facets of city government and Atlanta as a whole for their work for what we can all do to reduce crime. We're now seeing our 3rd year in reduction of crime. 2023 was down over 2022, 2024 of that year, and then this morning you see stats that we already have stats that we're showing yet reductions again. Mayor Dickens gets briefed every Monday through Friday at 8:30 on the last 24 hours in our city, what crime is occurring, what big events are approaching, what is the intelligence landscape. Sometimes he wants to be briefed on the weekends. When I briefed the mayor this morning, there had been 21 homicides so far in Atlanta, Georgia, as of this day. If you go back when the mayor was briefed in 2022, we'd already briefed the mayor on 42 homicides in the city. And so we are making a difference. When I say the we, it's the collective of Atlanta with your police department there with you. We have to have enough people to go to the calls, to be present, to prevent crime, to take people off the streets that should not be there. But we also have to learn new and innovative ways to fight crime. It can't always be a sledgehammer in the neighborhood. We have to go in with intelligence-driven law enforcement, with technology, with new and better ways to do things. And we do that through the training center to make sure we're using the leadership building and the academic building and the simulation center to find new ways to go in and remove drug dealers from neighborhoods, to be able to find anyone that may be missing at the time. That's what the training center does. So we do our part as the police department to be present with you and take dangerous individuals off the street and put them in a courtroom where they belong. But we're also going to use the campus to help equip the community. There's spaces that are dedicated on the site for Neighborhood Watch, for Citizens Police Academy, for working with programs of the neighborhood. I'll give you an example here real quick. Last year, we responded to right at 700,000 calls in the city. One of those calls would have been the Peachtree Road Race with over 50,000 runners, so we had over 1 million contacts. How many times do you think we fired our weapon at a felon last year in Atlanta, Georgia? You can't answer, this table can't answer. Dave Huddleston's in the room too with our team. Forgot you, Dave, you're actually written on my paper. He can't answer. 8 times. 8 times last year we fired our weapons at a felon in the city. How many times do you think we responded to a mental health call in our city last year? 19 times a day. Okay, 19 times a day. Today your police department will go to 19 calls of a person threatening to jump, a person threatening to kill themselves with a weapon in their hand, having taken overdose, off their medications, and a family member's calling us. So because of the training center, your officers have as many hours learning how to recognize a mental health emergency, navigate it, and take someone to a community-based or health-based location and not a jail. That's how we're able to reduce numbers like that, by investing in men and women, giving a whole community the tools to make Atlanta as safe as it can be.
That deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Chief Smith, Chief Shearbaum talked about the impact on retention, on recruitment. Can you talk a little bit about what you're experiencing with respect to the training center and fire and rescue?
So in Atlanta Fire Rescue, retention has always been an issue, as well as recruiting. And it's because of the optics of the training center. How can you say you are the largest department in the state of Georgia, and you are taking your members to an old elementary school that is dilapidated, and you've had to go in and paint the walls, and you're sitting at desks and tables that were designed for kids. And so our numbers have changed tremendously, to the point that our vacancy rate now in this one ranks is 13%. And so we continue to push that down. We take our members out. We educate them on what the new training center is going to do. They become our biggest advocates for recruiting for Atlanta Fire Rescue. We get well over 2,000 applications per year. And right now we have 110 people that are training now to be firefighters, with our next graduation coming up in May. So we are very excited about expanding our training capabilities and stepping into a space that can provide us real life application. Many of you don't know that fire calls, believe it or not, in Atlanta, you see the fire trucks running up and down the road, but they represent less than 1% of our call volume. The overwhelming majority of our calls are EMS calls. What does training in the state-of-the-art facility look like? We will now have an EMS dedicated training room. We have a mock ambulance to simulate handling real life and life-threatening events out on the streets of Atlanta, as well as we have a cadaver lab for our members to train on. And so we have an accredited paramedic program, or paramedicine program, in Atlanta Fire Rescue. This now gives us the opportunity to train at an optimal level so that we can be there when the citizens need us.
Thank you. Dave, you mentioned this about the public-private partnership. I did as well. This couldn't have happened without the private sector stepping up. So can you expand on the impact of the private sector, some of the numbers shared as far as the 118 and the 31? I think that's important for the audience to know. And then how can the business community continue to help?
Well, thank you, John. I think that's the other big takeaway here, is how we were able to accomplish this incredible feat, building this incredible facility through a public-private partnership. As it says on the handout there in front of you, City of Atlanta spent $31 million of a $118 million project. Now I want you to think about that and put it in context. Nashville's building a very similar training center right now, spending $415 million. New York City spent $1 billion building their training center. So for the City of Atlanta to spend $31 million of taxpayers' money, with the rest of that all being done through philanthropy, is incredible. On top of that, the contractors, the architects, the engineers, Brassfield and Gorey as a general contractor, worked without a profit, basically, as their philanthropy back to the project. So in spite of the community input and the partnership with the community, I think is one big takeaway. And the second big takeaway is how we're able to do this incredible thing with the philanthropic support of the business leaders, the philanthropic leaders, the community here in Atlanta to get this project done. All with all the sort of nonsense going on around that. And how everyone can help us going forward is realizing this, that there is nothing controversial about supporting police. There's nothing controversial about supporting the Public Safety Training Center. There's certainly nothing controversial about better training between police and fire, because I hear both chiefs say all the time, if you have better talent, which this training center will lead to, and if you have better training, which the center will lead to, you have what? Better outcomes on the street. So there's nothing controversial about any of that. And what we need is everyone in this community, every business leader, every corporation to lean into this and make sure that, I think I heard somebody say at the beginning, the most important thing about this training center is the strategy. And that is returning the public safety as the top priority of the citizens of Atlanta. That is the biggest reason we built the training center, or the whole idea was part of the strategy, to get back to the momentum, to reducing crime, to ultimately make Atlanta the safest large city in America. That's our goal, and now with this training center and the momentum that has created, we can certainly get there.
So Chief, we have, I guess the equivalent of 8 Super Bowls coming next year. So you've got this wonderful facility opening next month. Talk a little bit about the impact of the facility and prep and getting kind of ready, and the collaboration with Chief Smith and EMS to get us ready for next year.
Yeah, next year is going to be an exciting time. We already have Club Cup coming this year that we're excited for in Atlanta. But next year we already have teams that have been to London numerous times, to Germany. We're getting ready to proceed down to Mexico as we start learning from other cities how they manage large sports crowds around soccer. What the campus will be used for is to prepare our department for engaging for foreign nationals that will be traveling here, understanding all the rules and laws related to someone here from another country. We'll be enhancing our diplomacy skills around being a courteous ambassador of the city. We'll also be focusing on first aid training, but we're going to have a lot of other agencies here joining us here this time. It just will not be the Atlanta Police Department. As we've done with other Super Bowls, we'll be bringing in law enforcement agencies from across the state and the country. So they will have times to come and help train at this location as we get ready to make sure particularly regional law enforcement agencies to come in and be trained on city ordinances, our doctrine on crowd control and approach. And we'll be training very shortly, Chief Bruce, on crowd control management. We do know when you look at some countries around the world, there are very exuberant soccer fans. And we're not going to lose control of the downtown space. So we're going to be training on smart ways and appropriate ways to use our horses and to use our personnel and our partners and our technology to be able to keep the ground safe. It's also where we're going to have our operations center. You saw the leadership building. On that left side, the multi-agency coordination center will actually be there, and that room was designed to support that function.
How would you, stay with you, Chief Sherbaum, just for a second, how would you like to see the business community stay involved supporting APD, and then Chief Smith, same for you with fire and rescue?
You know, and great question. There's such a long tradition of the business community supporting public safety. If most of you will know that back during the Depression, when the city did not have enough money to meet the payroll for its police department, it was actually Coca-Cola that paid the salaries of the Atlanta Police Department during that time. So there's been a long tradition of this being the case. We need your expertise. We need the size and the expertise of your companies influencing us. We have started a restructuring program of our department, bringing in civilian leadership to do our business operations. We continue to need to know better ways to recruit, better ways to use technology, better ways to manage our budgets. And the vehicle that has done that for decades now has been the Atlanta Police Foundation. And I want to thank everyone that has served on the Atlanta Police Foundation. I remember when Chief Turner gave me the charge to implement President Obama's 21st century policing initiatives. And we were one of 16 departments out of 17,000 that was picked as a premier. It was because the Atlanta Police Foundation had already been doing everything the Blue Ribbon Commission said. Have your officers live in the city that they protect. Have your officers have the highest education they can achieve. Have training in areas that isn't always about a gun and badge. The Police Foundation was doing that for a long time. And so if you're a business entity in our city, look at what you do very well and say, how can that translate to the Atlanta Police Department to recruit better, to retain better, to use technology better, to equip itself to serve its citizens? And if you think you have a role for that, the Police Foundation would love to talk to you. I know David always loved to talk to you on that. So that would be my answer. What do you do well? We're about people too, and we're about delivering a quality product. How can you help us do that better?
Thank you, Chief Shearbaum. Chief Smith.
I'd have to echo what Chief said. I think this room is full of some brilliant business minds, and I think you need to realize that we run public safety. And so public safety, what do we need? We need help in those specialized areas that you can come in and assist public safety to be better. You can help us train our executives, help them get that secondary education, help them get that real world experience. Because our people come up through the ranks of the organization and they fall into spaces that they may not be equipped for at that time, but they do the best job they can do for us. So leverage those skills and those trainings and those opportunities that you have to include us in those C-suite conversations about how do we train our members to be better leaders.
I hate to retake the mic over from Steph. Looking at Stephanie reminded me, what's that? We have a challenge that's unique, that oftentimes we have to cancel our team members' off days, and oftentimes we have to put them on 12-hour shifts. Sometimes we see it coming, sometimes it's the last minute. And that is a challenge when you're a parent, especially when both of the parents work for the police department, or you're a single parent. What do you do with your child? How do you get help? How do you get child care at the last minute? And Stephanie has helped leading an initiative of giving our officers stipends to be able to secure quality child care in times that they see their shifts change at the last minute, or they have to come back to serve the city. So it was a unique need like that matched talent to need within the organization. And I can guarantee you we have people that are staying with the Atlanta Police Department, Stephanie, because of that, and we'll be able to recruit people to the Atlanta Police Department because we say we understand that you need to be a good parent while you protect a city. So that's a good example right there that I would like to point to.
Well done, Stephanie.
John, are we about ready to open it up to questions
please.
to the members? We have a microphone sitting there. While we wait for members to come to the microphone, to the panel, I'd like to lead by example by hearing your call to action. We have a long association with the Atlanta Police Department. We're going to take the company to come down to visit the training center and contribute our expertise. So talk about how companies can come down and visit. I gather from Beth that there is a meeting room. Dave, maybe you can respond to that.
Well, we'd love everybody to come out and take a tour. Most everyone that comes to see it is amazed by the scale, the scope, the aesthetics, the overall strategy behind the project. And I promise you, if you come out and see it, you will be blown away by this incredible place. And you will also be blown away by the faces of these officers and firefighters that you see out there. You'll see firsthand, wow, this is really a game changer for our city.
And I just encourage you too to, if you're thinking about off-sites, corporate retreats, et cetera, they have that figured out where you can bring your entire leadership team or your employee base and have a wonderful experience. So, Stephanie?
So part of the success for the numbers dropping has been the partnership that the police have made with the At Promise Centers and what's happening with our youth and the mayor's initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that and the importance of having the business community continue to support that because of what you've seen with our kids?
The At Promise Centers are phenomenal locations that attack the three drivers to safer cities and less crime, which is an economic opportunity, educational enhancement, and then a stable home life. The At Promise Centers provides those services for young people of our city. I think it's 14 to 24, 12 to 24. Of three locations, we're about to have our fourth, where they bring the business communities together, bring them together to help with homework, career development, mental health support during times, and they're phenomenal to go to. It's very hard to describe when you take a young person that, if it were not for the At Promise Center, would find themselves in a gang or would find themselves having to shoplift just to be able to provide for siblings that they're raising. So it allows us to attack all those motivators of crime. Last year was the first time I've ever seen this. We always have a historic summer bump in crime in Atlanta, Georgia. We start seeing it around June, July, crime goes up, it starts dropping off around August, September, and then we fight to get our negatives. That didn't happen last year. We did not see our traditional summer bump. In fact, what happened, Chief Smith, in our summer last year? Crime went down last year. And what I gave you, ladies and gentlemen, was when school gets out of session, and I gave you when school starts back in session. That's when we saw our crime bump every year. Last year, I hope it is not an anomaly. I hope it is a new trend. Because of investments in the At Promise Center, the mayor growing the summer youth employment program. If you want another challenge, hire someone this year in the mayor's summer youth program. Invest in our At Promise Centers. You are truly attacking those factors that cause crime to happen in our city.
Stephanie.
Yes, I had the pleasure of touring the facility. It's been almost a decade when I worked for the city of Atlanta. So I've got some questions about what the facility looked like back then. It's a beautiful site. There were the Carnegie building pillars there that were just amazing and part of Atlanta's architectural history and legacy. So I was curious what happened to those pillars, and also, where is Willie B? He was buried there.
Well, it is our job to find bodies, but we have not found Willie B. And Dave, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I can answer that, and I don't know if I'll say this 100% correct, but this is the best of my memory. There was a rumor when we first started the building of the training center that that's where the zoo had buried all the animals out at the zoo. And so we said, well, that's not good, right? So we had the zoo team came out and they did a survey and they pulled all the historical records, Stephanie, and they were able to identify exactly where Willie B. was buried. But he's, a quarter of a mile or so away from where we've actually constructed the facility. In other words, it's not on the same grounds. And then all that other stuff, I'm not really sure the answer to that. I know the remnants of all those other buildings were piles of just junk out there. But anyway, go ahead, Chief.
So the mayor formed the South River Task Force, which is working in key areas, curriculum development, community engagement, but how you take what is there from the Carnegie Library and use it in future art projects. And so I know there was a group working on that, and they're determining how to recover the granite and distribute it to different groups. And we hope to have some of it coming back to the site, right, Marshall? Okay, so there it is. And it's really cool. You go out there, you still see the name of famous authors in the granite. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do with it.
But if I could just add to that for Adrian, before you close out, though, again, 381 acres. City of Atlanta's owned that land for 100 years, right? And it's set there, secluded from the public since 1993. And so now, basically, all of that land, with the exception of the training center land, has been now dedicated as permanent green space. So we're excited about all that. You really are building Chief alluded to, a college campus in a park, open to the public. And I do believe we've created something incredible there. We'd love for you guys to all come see it.
One final question.
I'm Nancy Sims with the Varsity. And I just want to thank you so much for all your protection and your service that you've given to us for almost 100 years. And we are still downtown and safe, and you have made people feel safe, and we've used retired police officers for years. So we love you guys. The other thing I wanted to ask was, did anybody get to see the old training center? I got a tour of that when I went with our varsity truck to feed the officers and students, and I was horrified. I said, I don't see how you could possibly get a person to say, I want to sign up for this mess. It was the most embarrassing advertisement for the police, the fire, everybody, and the city of Atlanta. So I am so thankful that you have this wonderful opportunity to attract fine young people and give them the training they need to keep us safe and to keep them safe. I just want to thank you for that. And I'm a supporter of Back the Blue.
Thank you, Nancy. I wanted to remind everybody, next week we will be pivoting to talking about the arts. So as we talked about staying safe today, we'll be talking about the arts next week. Talk about a challenged business model becoming even more challenged in this time. perhaps our club can do what we've just done with these gentlemen, which is to partner to make a difference in our community. And so, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your extraordinary leadership. Over the last 111 years, this club has made a big difference by solving problems, and we've done that. I want to do one final thing. I've got a question for Chief Smith and Chief Shearbaum. Chief Smith and Shearbaum, would you mind standing at the front of the stage? And then John O'Neill, will you join them as well, please? And I don't want to make too light of a serious issue, but shoe shines. Do we get that at the police training center for John O'Neill? Can you please tell John? With that, this meeting is adjourned.